Hello and welcome to Daf Yomi B'Halacha. We're learning today Siman Tov Tzadi Zayin Seif Tes Zayin and Seif Yud Zayin Be'ezras Hashem. Page Kuf Vav Amud Aleph Kuf Vav, the bottom of the page. Siman Tov Tzadi Zayin Seif Tes Zayin. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Hashoichet Behema B'Yom Tov. Somebody who shechts an animal on Yom Tov. Toiv Loi Shelo Yivdok. Don't check the animal for potential treifas. Ad sheyafshit, until one skins the animal. Shem timot say treif. If one does find an animal which is treif, lo yehirash lafshita, one won't be able to skin the animal. Now we know an animal which is treif, meaning it won't last 12 months, may not be eaten, and we check animals before we eat them. We have to have them checked to make sure they're not treif. Now most of the tarifas, the different types of potential issues that may be involved in making an animal treif, most of them are not relevant. We only check, and mainly the lungs, which are checked in order to ensure that it has no sirichas, no adhesions, because if there would be adhesions on the lung, then that would make the animal treif. That's the most likely type of of tarifas. And therefore, every animal has to be checked. Now, when it comes to shechting an animal in Yom Tov, which is permitted, one's allowed to shecht an animal in Yom Tov in order to eat it. Nevertheless, one shouldn't check it until one skins it, because if a person were to check it before skinning and find actually it's a treif animal, he would have no excuse afterwards to skin it, and he won't be able to skin it, and because it would be unnecessary, because mafshit, skinning is a malacha, and therefore one should first skin it and only then check to see if it actually has if it is treif or kosher. Well, a hafshit al koponim muta before checking it, one can skin the animal. We needn't be concerned maybe it's treif. Why? Because most animals are kosher. If a person would first check it, then and he would find actually it is treif, he would no longer be able to skin it. One may not skin an animal unless one's eating the animal. In this case, one wouldn't be eating the animal. Similarly, a bird for b'shchita, which became treif, which during after shchita, after limit hanoitis, was not allowed to pluck the feathers. Even to do a hafshota, even to skin it in a abnormal way, which would only be involved in this drabonon, gam kain also is also forbidden. What would be an example of skinning an animal in a strange way? The Shatzion Ayin says, for example, to skin it into smaller pieces, or to use a thorn or a stick to skin it in an abnormal way. Those who use as drabonon, it's forbidden because hefshut is a malacha, one of the malachas forbidden on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. It's only permitted if a person is subsequently going to eat from this animal, and if therefore if it's a treif, you can't eat from it. Hefshut is also, even if it's being done in a strange way. And you may come with the following logic to permit this whole story and to permit hefshut taking place, even if it's not been, even if it's been checked, because a person may come with the following svara. We find later in some Tov study tests that often we permit certain activities, because otherwise, if we wouldn't permit it, people would refrain from actually shechting at all in Yom Tov, and they wouldn't have food for Yom Tov. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that suggestion is not relevant here. We're giving you a way to be able to do the hefshut and to do the skinning. Just do it before bedika, and therefore nobody will say, "Well, I'm actually not going to shech the animal because in case I find it treif, I won't be able to skin it," because they won't say that. They'll just skin it before checking, and that will be fine. And there was no concern whatsoever that person won't have his food for Yom Tov. Sif Yod Zayin. In Nimsas Treifa, if a person finds that the animal is treif, it has one of the defects deeming it to be a treifa and may not be eaten. Also l'taltala. In fact, one may not even move this animal. However, it can be sold to a goy even on Yom Tov, just like a person can sell an item to a yid on Yom Tov, which may sound strange, but yes, an item can be sold on Yom Tov or Shabbos for that matter, if necessary. However, one must avoid the following: one must ensure not to weigh the animal, not to mention a total price of the animal, because that is domi lemekach memcha. That's like buying and selling, which is forbidden on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. Because of the concern a person may come to write, but the actual sale itself is permitted. when necessary, and it just one has to avoid, as I say, weighing it and mentioning a total price. And if he doesn't trust the non-Jew to pay him back, then he will he's allowed to take a collateral from the non-Jew to ensure the non-Jew will pay him back, which is interesting. The interesting thing is here that the actual sale itself per se is permitted, provided it's done avoiding those issues of weighing and talking about weighing or total price, and even if it means taking collateral from the non-Jew, that's okay. Also a taltala. First of all, you find an animal on Shabbos, on Yom Tov, which was shechted, and then it was tested and found to be treif, it may not be moved. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Aleph, I feel it medis b'chama b'tisrach, even if it's sitting in the sun and it's becoming putrid, also lanicha up, one may not move it to a place of shade. Now, again, perhaps you should say, well, if the person is not able to move this animal, were it to become a treif, perhaps he won't bother shechting at all because he won't want to shecht in case he's restricted afterwards where he's going to be able to move it. And then maybe there's a concern that that person won't have food for Yom Tov. Says the Mishnah Berurah, there's no such concern. Says the Mishnah Berurah, we didn't, Chazal don't see it necessary to permit moving this animal after it was found to be a treifa out of concern. Otherwise, the person maybe won't shecht in the first place. No. Because who told him to shecht it in a place where later there'll be a problem if it becomes a treifa, we'll be able to move it. He could initially shecht in a place which is a safe place, a place of shade, and then check it, and then if it finds to be a treifa, there'll be no concern at all. And therefore, Chazal didn't see a reason to permit it being moved afterwards based on that cheshbon, that concern. For Yeshe Kosfu, there's a second reason. There's another reason Chazal weren't concerned. Maybe a person won't shecht at all if he knows he can't move the meat. That's not a reason. If a concerning might become treifa, won't stop him from shechting. Is because it's unlikely the animal will be a treifa. Yeah, and yeah. And therefore, Yeshe Kosfu, somebody of Summer said, nowadays the machmarin b'treifas and hafas reh become chumras. There's various chumras and additional checks which we do. Shchichi treifas, more likely the animals are treifa. Shape ikelamechash shem yem leveishach. There's more of a concern an animal will become a treifa. And therefore, according to this second reason, if we don't allow the animal to be moved, perhaps there's more of a concern now than there ever was. That a person may not want to shecht at all on Yom Tov and may not end up having food for Yom Tov. Therefore, there are those that say there's a reason to be lenient with Manazah nowadays. That's near to yes, allow animal to be moved, not like the Shulchan Aruch. However, with regards to geese and chickens, says the Mishnah Berurah, they're lekabu tarfas areya, that they don't have such a concern of the lung being treif. Mokmina and Adina, we take this as it always was. Fasurim b'tiltal, they may not be moved because since it's not so frequent, they will actually shecht. Now the Dushan points out that this is all maybe in time of Shulchan Aruch, time of the Mishnah Berurah, but now of course there's a concern of animals becoming treif, and therefore this whole exception is not relevant nowadays. Says the Mishnah Berurah. So we're left with the Shulchan Aruch, which tells us that an animal which is found treifa may not be moved because it becomes muksa. Says the Mishnah Berurah, we had a discussion in Siman Tov Sadihei Sif Dalet with regard to a food item, that this food item was expected not to be eaten on Yom Tov. Mechaber holds it's muksa, and the Ramah holds it is not muksa. Says the Mishnah Berurah here that the Shulchan Aruch that writes here that this animal which is found to be treif on Yom Tov is muksa is similar to that situation, because similarly here, when Yom Tov came in, although it was edible for animals, but it wasn't expected to be eaten by an animal. Nobody thought it would be, we didn't think it would be treif, and yet on Yom Tov it became actually animal food, so to speak, because it became a treifa. And so therefore similar to a food item over there, which was when Yom Tov came in, it was stored away when nobody was expecting to eat it, but yet on Yom Tov somebody did want to eat it. So therefore it's similar to this discussion over there where we said the Mechaber holds such a thing is muksa and the Ramah holds is not muksa. So the Mishnah Berurah is saying over here that the Shulchan Aruch that says a treif which is found to be an animal which is found to be a treif on Yom Tov is muksa, is going with according to his opinion that such a similar thing is muksa on Yontif. Says the Mishnah Berurah, "Chol zeh l'shittas hamachabed the muksa also b'Yontif techid le'elbasim tov study hey aval yesh oivim sheheva Ramah sham the muksa shari." The Ramah who says over there that, for example, a food item which was put in storage is not muksa on Yontif because at the end of the day it's a food item. Similarly here, you have this animal which was suitable for to be given to a dog before Yontif. So therefore, the fact on Yontif it became it was clearly only for dogs. It's also not going to be muksa. So therefore, Gam Kibin and Inushari, the Ramah would say also an animal which is found to be a treifa is not muksa on Yontif. Ken Koswood Kama Poskim, that's what many Poskim say. Yesh Mein Shasayvim, and some say no, true. With regard to the muksa issue of siftaret and toftari hay, it would not be a concern. But there's another problem called noilet. This animal has changed its situation significantly to make kara have adam. When Yontif it was fit for human consumption, and now there's a change happened to it. It's found to be a treifa, now it's only fit for animals. It's not comparable to the case of there when one has food in a storehouse, which is taken out of the storehouse and Yontif, it has no absolute change. Therefore, this is noilet. And we mentioned there that even the Ramah, who permits that type of muksa, prohibits a noilet if the item has become a new type of entity. To make korah adam, before it was suitable for human consumption, now it's geared only for animal consumption because it's a treifa. Okay, and if so, also even according to the Ramah there, it would be an issue of muksa shari kosa shampagod machmarinen ben noilet. We mentioned there, even the Ramah doesn't matter. Food which was put in oitza, etc. But he agrees noilet if there's a bit of change like it has here, then it will be muksa for the reason of noilet. Aval mutter, one may sell a treifa piece of meat. A kosher animal, if, for example, you have no one available who is able to remove the forbidden fat from the back half of the animal, one can sell the animal to a non-Jew. But the way which is explained here, don't forget that if there's a significant amount of the animal which a Jewish person can't have, because the back of the animal has all got issues of chalovim, of fats, forbidden fats, which is difficult to purge, and therefore he'd want to sell it to a non-Jew. Says the Mishnah Berurah, how can have a kosher animal? Well, that he just simply wants to have the animal, but there's a tremendous loss if he throws the rest out of it. He wants to sell the hindquarters, as it's known. So he could do that on Yontif in the permitted way, as the Mechaber describes, the Shulchan Aruch describes over here. That's talking about there's a concern if you leave the animal, it would become moldy if you leave it till after Yontif. If it could be kept till after Yontif, selling an item on Yontif, even with the restrictions the Mechaber says of not to mention the price, etc., is not ideal. It's not l'chatchela. It's only and if there's no other way to avoid it. And therefore, if you could keep the animal till after Yontif, we don't permit the animal to be sold on Yontif, bein b'treifa, bein b'chraim, whether it's a treifa animal or it's a hindquarters. And even if there's a concern it's going to go off, we only permitted the sale is only permitted if it was actually shechted on Yontif, and therefore it couldn't have been sold before Yontif. Erev Yontif Samach Erev was shechted very close to Yontif. It couldn't have been sold before Yontif. If it could have been sold before Yontif, we do not permit it to be sold on Yontif. So again, the Shulchan Aruch here has told us an animal which is treif, which is found treif on Yontif, becomes muksa. The Mishnah Berurah discusses this, and he says that even the Ramah, who holds that food items which are designated, which are not expected to be eaten, he holds that they are not muksa. Nevertheless, he would hold this is muksa because it's concerned of noilet. It's considered a new entity because on Yontif it's found to be treifa. Even the Ramah would hold it's muksa because of noilet, a new entity. It can be sold provided one keeps the conditions that Mechaber talks about not to weigh it or to mention the price, the total price. Discuss the halachas exactly what one may not mention is discussed until Shabbos. But that's again only if necessary, if a person couldn't have sold before Yontif, but if when it can't wait to be sold after Yontif. Otherwise, this should not be done.